Hello, welcome to all. I am Dr. V. Thamilarasi, Assistant Professor of Sri Shada College Foreman. Now I am going to discuss some of the important concepts behind big data analytics and its basics. Okay, let's go to the slides. So, while showing this image, what did you think? There is a person who handled a phone, and while handling a phone, there is not much of processing data happened, but every process goes under some data processing, because for every processing there is a lot and lot of data stored in online platforms or servers or anything else. But however, for a simple phone handling needs, otherwise it stores lots of data. Okay, for example, per day one single person can create 40 exabytes of data. Okay, so while seeing picture you can easily understand that. So while if more than 5 million billion people's using a phone, means what's going to happen? There is a large amount of data created. Okay, so to handling the data is named as big data. Okay, so let's have a look at the data generated per minute on the internet. For example, there is a different type of apps. I only put only 4 or 5 apps only in the slide, but while calculating there is a trillion amount of data created in a YouTube viewers and Facebook users and Instagram users and mail users, etc., etc. So today is a data world. So everyday data can be generated and everyday data can be processed and everyday data can be analyzed, and based on the future trends predicted and any patient disease diagnosis happened. So everything happened based on data. So that's why today world is called a data world. Okay, so there is, okay, we have now idea, day to day there is a lot and lot of data is produced, but how that data can be processed and how that data can be handled. For example, in big data we have 5 V supports available. First one is the volume, another one is the velocity, another one is the variety, another one is the veracity, and another one is the value. These 5 V's is a basic pillars of big data. So based on the 5 V's only every data is going to be handled, and every decision making depends on different V values. Okay, while seeing picture you can easily understand what is volume, the large volume of data, what is velocity. So it's a processed and test the given records. So what is variety? Variety is depend on structured data, semi-structured data and unstructured data. And what is veracity? Veracity simply works based on the accuracy and trustworthiness. And what is volume? It may be used for disease detection, it may be used for better treatment, it may be used for to reduce the cost. So it's only depend on a particular application, but however every application needs definitely a support of volume. So these 5 values plays important role in big data. Okay, last slide, we just look at the what are the 5 V's which is important for big data analytics. Okay, after that what's happened, we have some V's which supports the data that is going to be converted into some other process, but to handle those data there is definitely need a some pipeline, so which is called a framework. So these frameworks are called as big data framework. So there is three main things which is necessary for big data, that is Hadoop, Apache Spark and HDFS file system. So it's one of the basic and very important big data analytics framework. So while looking picture, you can easily understand Hadoop distributed file system, how it's going to be worked. So the big and large volume of data is going to be split into some ABC. So some ABC files, those ABC files again processed for the particular application. So after that, the whole large data going to be given a useful information. Okay, this is the way how the Hadoop file system going to be worked. So this framework definitely need after the considering of 5 V's. So here you can easily understand, first the given data, that is the processed big data, is going to be split into task A, B, C, D, that can be produce result within a time and accurate result. This is the main reason why Hadoop plays important role in big data analytics. Okay, here you can easily see how the data can be fetched. It can be from any game information, it can be from any mobile information, it can be any hospital information, or it can be any market trend analysis. For a data can be get from anywhere, but it's a huge amount of data. That's the reason we go for big data analytics. Okay, so while processing data, we definitely need some V's and frameworks to carry out the particular process or particular decision making. So here you can easily understand, in 2012 the Hurricane Sandy analysis is easily predicted before 5 days by using big data analytics, because the real time data is given to process for the support of 5Ps and Hadoop framework. So finally they can easily find or analyze the result, and they predict before 5 days, that is this time the Hurricane Sandy is going to be happen the particular area of Australia. So it's used to analyze the real-time data. So this is the main cause why big data analytics plays important role in nowadays. So before the previous slides, we easily understand what is big data, what is data, and what is the importance of big data. It's a simple basic, one single basic pipeline is produced in before slides. Now we have to deeply analyze from the very basic what is data. So we already know data. So data is any information which can be stored in the form of any file that is going to be represented in the name of data. So data can be available in any format, that is structured format, semi-structured format and unstructured format. So what is structured format? Definitely there should be some formatting, that is the row and column, the definite order is going to be followed, so that is structured. What is unstructured data? Surely they didn't follow any formatting, so that it's a pool of information that is collected in a some data storage device. So that is a unstructured data. For example, we can say it as a real-time data, so maximum comes in the form of unstructured data. Okay, while comparing structured and unstructured data, semi-structured is the habit or characteristics of both. So it has both table format, and also it has a unstructured format. So based on, because all the data is available in these three type of formats only. Maybe it can be collected from any internet, it can be collected from any healthcare center, it can be collected from any business organization and financial institution, educational institution, etc., etc. However, the data can be presented in any these three type of forms. Okay, that is the reason why we need to analyze the data, and this is the reason why we need to select a data for a particular process. Okay, so simply while showing this picture you can easily understand what is structured data. So it's a predefined data models, so it can be easily to search, and it also in a text based. So it's here clearly shows what is happening while looking the table. We can easily understand, so those row values are high, these values are low, otherwise these values are not continuous values, or these values are continuous, and while seeing text we can easily understand what is happening there. So that is structured data. For example, relational database warehouses are structured data. It can be stored in a rows and columns. For example, any dates, phone numbers, social security numbers, customer names, transaction information, everything can be stored in a structured format. This is a structured data. So what is unstructured data? So as we discussed previous slide, unstructured data definitely follow any format. It doesn't follow any format. So no predefined data models, difficult to search, text, PDF, images, video shows the why it's happened. So it doesn't show what happened. It's just to give an idea of why it's happened. Okay. So here what are the various forms? It can be a documents, it can be emails, it can be images, conversation, transcripts, etc., etc. So any data it can be follow unstructured format. That is maybe a document, a email message, etc. Okay. So it is semi-structure. So semi-structure is loosely organized meta-level data that can contain unstructured. Okay. Maximum it's a unstructured, but you can understand it's a formatted some structure. So that is the middle of structured and unstructured data. Okay. For example, it's a server logs, tweets organized by hashtags, and email sorting by folders, etc. Okay, there is a lot of emails, but that email can be sorting, that is the following some structure based on the folders. Okay, so it's a semi-structured data. So the data can be stored in three forms, that is the structured data, unstructured data, and semi-structured data. So it is the basic pillar of big data. Okay, now we can easily see what are the structured data and unstructured data, how it can be stored and how it can be processed and why it is needed. Okay. So after understanding data, now we are convert to data into a big data. Why is the concept big data arise? So the big data refers to the maximum volume of data. Maybe it's a structure, maybe it's unstructured, maybe it's a semi-structure. So it's a diverse sets of information that grow at even increasing rates. Because we already saw in the first slide, there is a 40 exabytes of data daily collected for even for a single person, while he or she using a online sources, mobile or internet sources, etc., etc. So definitely every day we consume, otherwise every day the business needs a process a large amount of data, then only they can predict the future, then only they can analyze the next time trend, what is so what is happening, why it is happening, how it can be happening. So like that the questions can be easily answered with the processing of big data. Okay, what is big data? So big data refers to a large diverse sets of information that grow at ever increasing rates. So the term encompasses the volume of information, velocity or speed which it is created and collected, and variety of scope of the data points being covered, known as 3 V's. So these are the 3 V's mainly used, but however there is a 5 V's available, depends on the application, the V is going to be changed. So this is big data. So what is the key points, what is the plus we can get from the big data? So big data involves a great quantity of diverse information that arrives in increasing volumes and with a ever higher velocity. Note the point, velocity here, the first we come. Then the big data can be either structured or in an unstructured format. Then nearly every department in a company can utilize findings from big data analytics, but handling its clutter and noise can pose problems. So, big data can be collected from your social networks, websites, from personal electronics through questionnaires, product purchases, and electronic check-ins, among many other sources. So, it is sometimes collected with the user consent and sometimes not, often raising a privacy concerns. Okay, so big data is typically stored electronically and analyzed using software specifically designed to handle large complex data. Here one of the main important concept you have to fetch is, it is a large collection of data and which is also in a diverse format, so that data going to be handled. So this is the key point of big data. So what is the characteristics of big data? We already know that is the 5 pillars of V which is support the big data. That is, these are the 5 characteristics of data, and we already know volume refers to the massive amount of data, and velocity is the speed at which data is generated. Okay, note the point, which data is the speed of which data is generated, and variety represent the different data formats and sources. Different data, the structural format, unstructured format, and semi-structured format. Okay, so veracity deals with the data accuracy and trustworthiness, because based on the real time accuracy, data accuracy and trustworthiness, if the data is that much effective only, we can consider the pillar of veracity. Then value refers to the extracting meaningful insights. Okay, so these are the 5 characteristics of big data and 5 V's of big data. So big data consumes volume, velocity, variety, veracity and value. We know all these five V's plays massive role in big data analytics. Then next we have to understand what is the evolution of big data, how the big data is evolved, how the big data is evolved from previous generations. So started with the simple databases first and spreadsheet. So it's initially start with a simple database and spreadsheet, and grow with internet and digitalization. While the internet and digitalization is bloom, and that time the database and spreadsheet is going to be integrate with the internet and digitalization, and according to that this there is advanced models also arised. So web 2.0 accelerated the data generation. So social media added user generated content. So IoT devices, cloud computing, analytics tools, artificial intelligence and machine learning, business intelligent analytics. So everything going to be developed step by step based on the evolution of internet and artificial intelligence. Okay, so the evolution of big data blooms, otherwise it's go to the peak at the time of the development of artificial intelligence tools and usage of internet. So this is the evolution of big data. Then what is the definition of big data? We already considered what is the big data. Big data is a massive amount of data which consumes large complex data sets. So the processing of large complex data sets needs the support of big data. It is different from traditional software capabilities. because which involves capturing, storing, analyzing data, and it involves 5 V's of data, and it involves real-time analysis of data, and it involves Internet of Things, sensors, devices, cloud, and social media, everything. So totally it covers all the areas of digitalization, which is comes under what are the industries are business world, otherwise the healthcare industry and educational industry. So everything, every data can be easily handled by big data. So why big data, why it is need? See, from the first slides we can definitely some idea about big data and why it is need. Simply one line we can say the digitalization need a support of big data. Because digitalization produce a massive amount of data and every day, every second. So those data can be easily processed by big data only, because it has a few characteristics that is not present even in a machine learning or deep learning. Because here we have a fees, that is 5 V's. Then we have a Hadoop frameworks. We have a big data analytics tools. These tools, frameworks, and these depends on the what type of application we are going to process and what type of application needs a particular decision making. So this is the reason why we need a big data. There is also a different analytics available: descriptive analytics, predictive analytics, diagnostic analytics, like that. Depends on nature of data, then analytics also going to be differ. So this is the reason most of the business industries rely on big data analytics. So maybe what are the challenges we faced while using or while processing a large volume of data in a big data? Okay, so definitely there is a concept we have to consider: data security and privacy. Because data is not coming from a single source of online platform, single source of mobile user, or single source of any industry. It's arrived from different sources and different applications and different industries. So definitely there is a need, we have to consider data security and privacy. Then definitely it's a large amount of data, surely we have to manage the storage and processing resources. Then if it is a unstructured data, is definitely the processing is complicated, but we have a lot of frameworks to handle those data. So however, while handling big data, these are the few challenges we face in analysis. So the real-time analysis and the data quality and the cost and the infrastructure, some ethical issues, all these going to be considered while using big data for analyzing a particular data. So what is the difference between traditional business intelligence and big data? We already know about, in traditionally they use a structured formats only. The unstructured formats can be critical to analyze. So that is the reason why the big data is produced. So the business intelligence used only structured data, and those are in a only fixed, that is those handled only a fixed queries. While big data has a 5 V support and there is a framework support, so it is definitely surely analyze the real time data with the unstructured format also. So it can be helped to forecast any future happenings. Maybe it's a disease, maybe it's a market analysis, maybe it's healthcare analysis, maybe it's in education analysis. However, based on the real-time analysis, we can predict what is going to happen in a next. For that, it has many tools available: the Hadoop, Park, and NoSQL, etc. So while in a business intelligence, it produces the historical data. So definitely it's produce the tables visualization like Tableau and Power BI tools. So we have a Hive and Big Kafka for a data analytics tools. This is the main difference. What is the difference between business intelligence and big data? So this symbol column simply shows how the big data is different from data warehouse. So big data is technically to store and manage large amount of data, while where data warehouse is an architecture used to organize the data. Note the point, which is used to organize the data, but big data is used to manage large amount of data. Here organization is here handling of data. Then it takes structured, semi-structured and unstructured data, while data warehouse only takes structured data. Then big data does not follow any SQL queries to fetch data from the database, while data warehouse definitely need a SQL queries to fetch data. So when new data is added to big data, the changes are stored in file which are typically represented by tables. But in data warehouse, new data does not impact the data warehouse directly. So any changes in the data warehouse does not produce any impact, so the user can't identify whether it's a old data or new data. And also it is difficult to gain impact of real-time data, because we can't identify is it a today's stored data or yesterday's stored data. So like that we can't differentiate, but in a big data there is a possibility, because that can be represented in by tables. So this is the main difference why traditional business intelligence is differ from big data, because there is a data warehouse plays a dominant role in a business traditional business intelligence, while in a while comparing to the big data. So we already discussed what is the data warehouse and big data. In big data, which environment is going to be support? Surely the Hadoop environment. We already know Hadoop environment, HDFS, MapReduce, Yarn, Hive. These are the few tools and few framework which constantly, continuously support the big data analytics, because it's largely handled the real-time data in an unstructured format. So Hadoop environment plays an important role in a big data. So it simply shows how the data warehouse worked while comparing to the Hadoop environment. Here just show this picture and remember this picture. Here what is happening, data warehouse we already identified what are the features of data warehouse. It's simply reporting, visualize and data mining the particular data. It does not count or present or labeled what is happening in the table, what is happening in the data today. So it does not differentiate. It's just a collection of data. Okay. So it is the Hadoop architecture. So how the Hadoop architecture handle the different type of data? So it has the applicant programming interface and processing framework layer, and it has a cluster resource management and distributed storage layer. So these are the few layers which can be handled in big data analytics. So these are the few layers which can be used based on the type of application and decision making. Okay. So what is big data analytics? So analyzing large sets of data is a big data analytics. Okay, where it can be applied? Everywhere. Maybe it's a descriptive analytics, maybe it's a diagnostic analytics, maybe it's a predictive analytics, maybe it's a prescriptive analytics. So depends of type of application. We need to produce a decision making. And so based on that, the big data analytics is going to be differ. Okay, maybe it's a healthcare record, maybe it's a finance record, maybe it's a risk analysis, maybe it's a market trend analysis, maybe it's a business analysis. However, this can be used simply done by R programming, Python programming and Spark analysis. Okay. So however, in big data analytics, there is a lot and lot pillars available. That is, first we know 5 V's available, and we know that it supports any type of data, structured, unstructured and semi-structured data, and it has efficiency while using V's. So, however, the produced result is accurate and trustworthiness. Okay, so the simple picture simply detect how the big data analytics process every data. Maybe for while referring a data source, maybe it's a web data, Maybe it's a mobile app data, maybe it's a transactional data, maybe it's a separate files or any database. Okay, so that's a data source. So the data can be get from any of these sources. Then what is the pipeline going to be used? Maybe it's the ELT data pipeline or even data streaming. So depends on type of pipeline we use. There is also a tools also differs. Then how the data storage and processing happen? Maybe it's a Hadoop, MongoDB and Cassandra, Spark, DynamoDB. Any of these frameworks can be used to store the data. Then finally what has happened? The data analysis. How that analysis? Maybe it's a real-time data. Okay, maybe it's used to reporting tools or any business intelligence tools, any interactive dashboards. So any format can be used to analyze the data in big data. So these are the four process which is going to be happened in any big data analytics process, which is the data source, data pipelines, data storage and processing, and data analysis. So keep that in mind. These are the four phases which is involved in big data analytics process. So what is the classification of analytics? We have some idea about in your previous semesters, that is the descriptive analytics, diagnostic analytics and predictive analytics and prescriptive analytics. We know what is descriptive analytics. Descriptive analytics simply shows what is happened, while diagnostic analytics simply shows why it is happened. So predictive analytics shows what may happen. The predictive, the sentence simply shows the future, so it shows what may happen. Prescriptive analytics suggest what type of action going to be taken or otherwise need to be taken. So these are the four type of analytics which is famous in big data analytics. So while taking the or processing the big data analytics, any of these analytics going to be support process the application, otherwise two or three analytics may be support. So simply it improves the accuracy and decision making. So this picture simply shows how those analytics can be worked for different data. Okay. So what are these challenges? We already know what are the challenges. In previous slides, we discussed about what are the challenges while we using a big data analytics. Big data, the same can be implemented in big data analytics also. Here the data integration, definitely we need to consider. Then the velocity, high velocity data types we have to consider, and the storage and vast data set we need to consider, and building a scalable, reliable system we have to consider. Because whatever big data and big data analytics both is same. The big data is a basic, while the analytics is a advanced stage of big data. Okay, so however the challenges based in big data that can be surely faced in big data analytics also. So still now we have some basic idea and concepts of big data and big data analytics. So what are the five V's and what are the frameworks and how the big data analytics is going to be worked, and what is the difference between data warehousing and big data, and how the data warehousing works, and how the data Hadoop environment can be worked. And now we have to consider what are the importance of big data analytics. So firstly it's improve the customer satisfaction, then enhances business operation, then enables evidence based strategies, and it reduces the risk and fraud, then drives innovation and growth, and supports smart city development and boosts supply chain efficiency, to enhances market accuracy and improves healthcare outcomes, and supports AI application. Totally big data has a large amount of advantages while compared to the other existing deep learning and machine learning. Okay, so big data considered a large volume of data from any source of data, and it also consider real time, and it also process the artificial intelligence, sensor data, IoT data. So it has a capable to work any type of data. Okay, so and also it can be produced in a reliable manner. So this is the importance of big data analytics. Thank you so much for considering my lecture.